I hate videos. Now, you may be wondering, if I hate videos, what the heck am I doing here? Wow, if you're listening on radio, um, I hope you enjoyed that song. That was Alicia Keys with Girl on Fire, and I dedicated it to my amazing guest who's waiting in the green room. Just quickly, Leanne is a creativity coach, and she and I are going to talk about what is that one thing that has allowed her to overcome adversity. And for her, it is creativity. Oh my goodness. I look at myself and I think, uh, painting, or doing some sort of art is very much outside of my comfort zone. But um, Leanne has helped me to see that that's not the only way that we can be creative. And by the way, forgive me for being rude, but if we haven't met yet, my name is Inge van Roy, and I'm recognized as a community connection catalyst. What that means is I help entrepreneurs and corporations focus on community, breaking down the silos because we are better together. Of course, I believe in the principle of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. And the reason I do is because I really wouldn't be the person that I am today had it not been for the people in my circle, the people in my community, including Leanne, which I just realized I had met about 2 years ago. Can you believe it's that long? Yeah, neither can I. But trust me, you want to stick around for today's conversation. And if you are listening on radio, I'd like to encourage you to please send us a WhatsApp message to +27269 714 45204. And if you are watching live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or Twitter, please drop us a comment. Let us know. We want you to be part of today's conversation as well. Definitely, after this, when Leanne and I wrap up, I'd like to encourage you to come on over and join us on africarp.co.za. Trust me, if you haven't done it yet, you're missing out. Um, that's where I get to play music and also wrap up my conversation by helping you figure out how you too can harness Leanne's superpower of creativity to overcome your adversity. So, without further ado, allow me to add Leanne to the stream. Welcome, Leanne.
Hi, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being here and availing yourself to have this conversation with me.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this is wonderful to be here today with you.
Awesome. Won't you please introduce yourself? Let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Leanne Lander. I've had many roles and hats over the years, and I started in the corporate arena, but over time, creativity just kept calling me. As a young person, I was a songwriter and a musician, and then, going into the corporate space was just very corporate-y, and nothing wrong with that. I learned a lot about, how creativity works in the corporate space, so it's been very positive to have that experience. But eventually, I just started wanting to do something a little more visual creation because songwriting was tough to do as a mom, and you can't be, the hours weren't conducive for that. So I started creating visual art for really self therapy, and one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was in galleries and spaces all around town and doing some solo exhibitions and all kinds of really interesting things and learning a whole different world that I didn't even know about.
Mm,
A lot to learn there. And yeah, so I've kind of just been leaning into that. And surprisingly, um, I circled back and started entering corporate spaces now as a creativity coach and learning what I have um, or teaching what I have learned over all the years and combining it together, like a synthesis of how creativity works and how to embrace it in corporate spaces as well. It doesn't have to, creativity is not art. I loved the uh, definitions that you had up earlier because that's really what it's about. It's problem solving, it's critical thinking, it's finding cures for things or different solutions for everyday common challenges that we face. It's
mm,
survival, honestly, right? So you did a
mm.
lot of good homework there. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job's easy. Whatever she just said.
Thank you. Yes, it's, one thing I want to highlight is that you didn't off thinking that this is what you were going to do.
Oh yeah.
It
Isn't
sort
that
of found
interesting?
you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something, man, anyone listening, it's never a straight line. It really never is. In fact, I studied natural resources, so I thought I was going to be like a certified tree hugger and save the environment and world. And and I went into corporate manufacturing, in fact, of all things, which was a really almost polar opposite of that. But it's just being open to, where your path takes you. Doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you didn't accomplish what you set out to do.
Mm,
Because interestingly enough, I started working at BMW Manufacturing, very supply chain management, that kind of thing. And I was able to do some really interesting creative problem solving and use my green degree in ways that were really interesting within the supply chain, like figuring out different waste stream, how to minimize the waste stream. I came up with some different programs. So I was able to incorporate my love and passion of the environment,
mm,
even in the unexpected place like that. And also the cool thing about a lot of these manufacturing plants, they have cutting edge environmental stringent, output systems and things like that. So they are very uh, environmental conscious, which was really neat for me to see that.
wow. Awesome. Um, hmm. Leanne, can you walk us through your career journey a little bit? Let us know like where you started from and just walk us through a little bit to get to where you are today, please.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I thought I was going to get a degree in some kind, I mean, a job in some kind of green field, but I'm going to date myself a little bit here. It's like 30 years ago. And my advisors had said, oh, this is a big up and coming thing. You're going to have so many job offers. And guess what? I had no job offers that were like I could move out on my own. Like they were poverty level job offers. And so in order just to pay bills and be an independent person, I had to take a job in a different field. Now things are very different now. thankfully. They were right. My advisors were right. Green is a big up and coming thing. It was just, we were a little early to the curve. So that being said, I went into this field thing called logistics. I had no idea what that was. Um, Supply chain management. It was like kind of scary words. And what was interesting is I ended up loving that. I loved the puzzle of it. It was something new every day that was perfect for me as a creative person. And I didn't even know. Sometimes you just don't know what you even need. No one, I think, grows up thinking, I'm going to be a supply chain manager. maybe these days they do. But as a kid, it's for sure
Mm.
not. And even as a college grad, you might, I think they're starting to go more in that direction, or some kids have an idea like, yes, that's kind of an interesting field, but it's more like a business degree. And then, that opens them up into something. But,
Mm.
it was very surprising how much opportunity there was to be very creative in that field and also help people. It was a interesting how much room there was to help people right within that little umbrella, help them with their processes. Because I then, from one little job title to another, I moved around a lot within that corporate space, and I ended up in quality management. So, which we were just improving processes, improving efficiencies, and talk about Six Sigma, black belt. We kind of got into that area. I started being trained as a quality management facilitator and a certified problem specialist. And that was really, again, didn't see that one coming. It was just one little door led to another door.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing about that, I learned then facilitating, the art of facilitating, really. And it's been really a game changer for me in how I now teach my classes and operate as a coach and consultant, because the trick to it is you're facilitating, you're bringing out, it's almost, I look at a refinery process where you bring people together, you kind of talk about a problem, but then you're kind of leading them to a certain direction, but you leave room for them to solve it. So
Mm.
that's empowering for them. It's also so much stronger to have 10 minds doing this problem
Yes.
solving and brainstorming than just me telling, or as some boss, somebody, like this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So there's
Mm.
a lot of strength in it.
Wow.
So
Wow. What a journey.
yeah, I
Right?
mean, and then, taking that farther, I did not have art on my radar at all. Like, art was something that was just like a lot of people think is just a fun, nice thing to do. But it's interesting, the business of art in itself is
Mm.
is a whole thing, right? I mean, as now I'm an entrepreneur and I'm an artist, and there are so many hats to wear that I did, again, not see coming, and didn't like, I just jumped into the deep end, not realizing I'd had to be the marketer, I had to be the social media specialist, I had to be a website manager, I have to be a shipper. I ship things, I have packaging things, finisher, hardware specialist, supply chain management coming into play as I'm
Wow.
ordering my supplies. So I mean, it's just not for the faint of heart, let me tell you. Like, it looks fun and like, look what I did, my beautiful art, but that's 20% of it.
Mm.
80% of it is the hard work behind the scenes that no one sees.
Mhm.
So
The logistics.
yeah, yeah, it's no joke. That's
No. Yeah.
the hard
Wow.
work.
I love that. But I love that, even though you moved away from that a little bit, you still are dealing with logistics. You're
Yeah,
still dealing with quality management.
absolutely. I mean, it all came into play. It's so ironic and interesting how you use all these different things wherever you're going. And the funnier
Mm.
part, I think, is that I've moved back into the corporate world, right? So, like, I got out of the corporate world just, to kind of pursue art and other things. And now I find myself being drawn back into the corporate world and the other side of it, you know,
Mm,
because I know what they're missing and I know what they need. And the great thing is I know what the problems they're facing. I understand their
yeah,
pain points, and they're really the same ones over and over again. They just present themselves in different ways. But it's so important to understand and have that background. So it's neat because I have both of those very, you would think they don't sit well together, but it's fascinating how they really do work together very nicely and they're so needed.
I love that. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I just love that because of your background. Sorry, my dog just walked in.
I
But
have
because
daughters
of
walking around in the background too, so we're
it is what it is. This is the beauty of life. But because of your background, you know where the gaps are, and
yeah.
you're able to facilitate them being filled in the corporate
Yeah.
world now, right?
It's really just, sitting down and understanding what their specific issue is, right? Because, there's every problem is unique to each facility or corporation. And it's just, within a matter of 30 minutes, you can kind of get the gist of what they're dealing with and then, cater different creative problem solving tools that work best for them. Some all kinds of different, little tricks up my sleeve to help bring
Mm,
uh, the elephant into the room, so to speak, without bringing the elephant into the room,
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's take a break quickly and just acknowledge some people that are listening. We have Catherine tuning in. She's from Alabama and she says, writing is word art,
Yes.
cooking is flavor art, gardening is living color art. I love that.
Ooh, Catherine gets it. That's exactly how you should be thinking. And analysts, that's spreadsheet art. I mean, like it's everywhere. And it's
Yes.
very important to remember that the arts do not just belong in this visual, beautiful area. The arts
Mm,
are um, creativity, rather, is uh, like I said, people that are in the corporate world solving these day-to-day problems, how to the calibration of a brake disc, it may be really good, but there's someone who has to get it even narrow that margin even more. That's creativity. They are a brake disc artist, if you want to put
right.
it that
Oh my
way.
gosh.
Calibration art. So Catherine, you're right on target there.
I love it. Guys, by the way, if you're watching live, what do you think of the background that we have? Um, this was created by Leanne. I hope you're enjoying the visual art. Um, we also have Diane. She's tuned in as well, and she says, creativity is intelligence at play. And she says that's by Albert Einstein. Thank
Yes.
you. I love that. Intelligence at play. That reminds me of a conversation that I had where somebody said that for them, they're actually looking to incorporate play more into their lives because we as adults tend to be a bit serious. And I can say, me, I'm the adult. I can be serious. Although I love to laugh, I will say that. We have to say hello to Whitney. She says she's dropping in from Katy, Texas. Hi, Whitney. Yeah, Diane and Catherine, please let us know where you're tuned in from. Catherine also says, yes, anything created from the heart is art. It's in the word. Wow, beautiful. Catherine is a writer.
That's
She
awesome.
says, I'm often accused of being too serious. Really? Nope. Catherine is hilarious. So she's being facetious by saying that. We also have
Humor, it's important.
we also have Amanda McDonald tuned in from Cape Town, South Africa, and I believe also our station manager, Mr. Peterson, is tuned in. So thank you for being here with us. Oh my goodness! Now I need to mind all my p's and q's. I'm just kidding. So, Leanne, I talk about Ubuntu, and here is the definition for those that don't know that word. It is an ancient African word which means humanity to others. It is often described as reminding us that I am because we are. So, Leanne, this is why I believe in community, because I know that I wouldn't be me without my people. Um, so, what does community mean to you?
Yeah, it's such an important topic. And, I think honestly, community comes in several different forms. Like if you think about an atom, you have your nucleus, you have your outside ring, and you have these different shells, within. Um, like what do you call those jawbreakers? There's layers. And it's important to remember that because there's different communities I think that we need to move within. And I have different communities for different things. And it's important to find your tribe, right? Uh, I don't want to talk about real artsy, the deep, deep artsy things with my engineer friends, it just doesn't translate so well. So I think it's important to think about having different communities for different outlets and different things. And then using those resources when you need it to tap into it, and also celebrating them and helping them out, So it's like this transfer of information, but in these, because we all have these, I don't know, there's a like almost three people within us, right? We have the playful person, we have the serious person, we have the private person and everything like, but we also have these different pockets that we operate in. And so I was just thinking about that recently is how I have several different communities that I lean on for different reasons and different things. And I'm so
Mm,
thankful for that diversity.
mm. I want to say, I'm sure Catherine is going to laugh at this, but you only have three different people inside of you. I have many.
Well, I know I'm thinking about there's this I don't know, ancient proverb or something. There's the man you see, the man, I don't know. Of
Mm,
course, I think there's a lot more like it can like we talked a little bit earlier about like it can paralyze you because there's so many plates to spin at once
yes.
and you want to do all of the things and you have to sometimes make decisions to only spin a couple at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so, Leanne, tell us about the work that you do that's related to community, and allow yourself to share. Because I'm just thinking about, you know, the little boxes that you have in your community that you did that you put your art in. Do you remember? You told me about that. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that and other things. So, how is the work that you do related to your communities?
So it's interesting. Because yeah, you mean a physical box. I did put my art in a physical box last year. It was like a little it was like a little, I don't know. You walk by it. It's a physical little, like some people put library books that you can give and take and receive and everything. Well, They did a really neat event last year in the Dublin community where I live, um, close to anyway. We had an exchange where we just put art, me and like 7 different artists, we just put art in this box, and it was free art that you could take and explore, and we also put some activities in there to inspire other people to be creative and do some creative thinking or creative work of some kind. So it was a really interesting way to interact with the community because I physically didn't get to meet them. But here's the thing, that had such an interesting reach. I am still meeting people today, and I'll be like at a function, they're like, "Did you have some art in a box?" I have your art, you know? And it's just so cool when that light bulb and that connection comes together and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting to meet the person who made my art, and I'm getting to meet the person who took my art." How cool is that?
That is really
Um,
cool.
Another interesting way, I mean, I am an author also. I wrote a book and published a book last year, almost 2 years ago now, a children's book. And that's a community in itself. So me and the illustrator, wonderful, she's become a business partner of mine, and we now go into schools, and that's a community in itself. We get to spend the day with these littles and talk about the creative writing process, the illustration process, because she illustrated the book. Even though I'm an artist, there's a limit. I can't draw good characters with
Mm.
emotions, and like I'm an abstract artist more or less. But she's really great doing character artists, and that's also, this is important to say, know when to ask for help, and that
Yes.
is even kind of part of the story. The story is all about Sonny the Firefly, who goes on this quest to find his light, his purpose, and he tries all these different things, trying to get his light to come on. And along the way, he discovers a lot of interesting things about himself, and part of that, it was just that he loved celebrating other people, and he loved building other people up and encouraging other people. And so part of our work is going into these schools talking about that. Sometimes our super talent, as you call them, superpower, is not always very visible. Sometimes our
Mm.
talents are like, okay, yeah, I'm an artist, I'm a songwriter, I'm an author. I can say all these labels, but honestly, at the heart of who I am, um, I'm a creativity instigator.
Oh, I love that.
you know, um, I like helping people just think in these different ways. So there's a community as well, a different one, right?
Mm.
So there's all these different, again, thinking about all these different ways to have community with different groups. And then you got the corporate team building kind of thing going on. So
Mm. I
lots
love
of
it.
different communities.
Yes. And community is everything. By the way, you're a creativity catalyst.
Catalyst, yes, that's another good one. I also teach classes, so there's another community in itself that is growing and building, is just passing on what I've learned and what I know, and what I am still learning, as I'm going. And that's been a really great outlet too, is that I don't know it all. And sometimes when I have my classes, I'm like, okay, I know a little bit more than you do about this specific art form. That's it. And I'm going to just share that with you. I'm going to unlock these techniques for you, and we're going to do this together. But how you use that is up to you as the participant. And
Mm.
it's like I've got this growing list of return students that are coming back, and I really, really love that, to see them grow and see what they're doing with the skill sets that they've learned and where they're taking that, unlocking all kinds of things. And I recently did this really fun class, which was called Finding Beauty Where You're At, and talk about community. This is cool. So it, one of my very first creative endeavors was going out, just taking photos of things right where I was. And the whole idea was to help find something beautiful to appreciate, because I was really kind of in a funky mood. I was really kind of sick of being stuck in Ohio. Like, it's not Hawaii or Costa Rica or somewhere really beautiful. Now, there are beautiful moments in Ohio, but You know what I mean?
Yes.
So anyways, I went out and I started finding, it was a scavenger hunt to find beauty. I didn't think I'd find it. And not only did I find it, I got so excited about it, I started sharing it. And then it kind of became a contagious thing. Other people started kind of doing it. And now this has grown into another little community in itself called Finding Beauty Where You Are. And it's like a little hashtag on Instagram. And that I had this class. So the beautiful thing that happened, I'd never done it was a 7-week class I did on this very specific topic. And I wasn't sure how it would go because I've done workshops for it, a one touch, but the 7-week course was so interesting because these participants started leaning in. And at first it was a little weird for them to be taking photos and pictures of everyday objects and things. But then by the end of the class, they started writing short stories. They started writing poetry around these things. They blossomed and their creative muscle started building. And they said by the end of the class, they're like, one, we don't want it to end. And two, it got so much easier for them to start finding this different perspective and start being more curious. And it really just comes down to childlike curiosity and what you touched on, that quote about playing. Man,
Yes.
we don't do it enough.
No.
And that's really what it comes down to, because when you start asking why and you start taking time to look at what's in front of you and looking at it in different perspectives too. Like little kids, when they look at stuff, they don't just go, oh, that's neat. They go upside down. They look at it from the top. They they move their bodies in weird ways. And that's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. Sometimes we have to get uncomfortable. We have to get humble. I can't tell you how many times I've been taking pictures, like macro photography, which means very small. I will get down on my hands and knees or squat in the grass to get cool pictures of dewdrops. And someone walks by and they see me and they wonder what the heck, you're weirdo in my lawn doing weird things. It just is that's been one of the most fascinating things I've done so far, to be
Mm.
honest with you, is something that simple. Because that unlocks then that creative muscle. And then you know how some of your best ideas come when you're showering or driving or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So by doing this and you're looking at things in a different way that you've seen right in front of you every day, now you're looking at it in a whole different aspect. It unlocks something. And scientifically, they show creative play, writing, Catherine out there doing your stuff and all these things. Diving into that, it actually builds new neurons and new pathways. And inadvertently, it unlocks problem solving things something that may impact your work directly by doing this creative play on the side. And people just don't do it enough.
We don't. And I love that. I can, I'm a very visual thinker. So, you know, you explaining that um, you were on your knees to take a picture of a dewdrop. I can just imagine what people thought when they were going past.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what the heck? But that's
What is she
okay.
doing? Yeah. You have to be a little brave and weird.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We have one comment from Catherine which made me laugh. She says, I was totally thinking that, but I didn't want to say it, Inga. All those people are part of the reason I write. All the people inside of her are part of the reason why she writes. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Let
Yeah.
me check if there's any. Oh, we have Wendy sent us a message saying that she's tuned in, and also Cecilia. So thank you for being here and spending the time with us, ladies. So, Leanne, hmm, let's. I want to dive in a little bit to what actually caused you to tap into your creativity. How did creativity become your thing? so that eventually you were able to harness it to overcome adversity. Can you share a little bit with us, please?
Yeah, it's really funny to your point. Uh, it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something that, I'm like, oh, creativity is the answer. It's a very crooked line. And and part of the book, The Sunny the Firefly, I feel like I'm Sunny the Firefly, by the way. I think I didn't realize I was writing an autobiography, but it's sometimes a little quiet nag. Sometimes our superhero powers don't just fly like a beautiful flag out there saying, here I am. It sometimes is this quiet nagging that keeps getting at you. And sometimes it even comes as a insult. I remember all through high school and grade school and like my whole life, because kids aren't afraid to say, you're weird, that you're different, you're kind of out there, and I kept hearing that over and over. And it was hurtful as a young person, right? Because you want to fit in and you don't want to be so weird. But as I got older, I started realizing how right they are. And, I'm like, huh, leaning more into that. And accidentally, it's not like I just made this conscious decision, say, I'm going to go with it then. I'm going to let my weird flag fly. Ooh, say that 3 times fast. It was, it was something that I came to realize that, I do see things differently. And it was something a friend said. So when I started on this path of taking photos, and then I would post something about it, which was introspective life lesson, that I saw this analogy by looking at this dewdrop. I then saw, oh, like, for a good example would be like when you look through a dewdrop, it refracts light and images, and you see things upside down. And so I just posted, for instance, sometimes the moments in life that turn the things that turn your life upside down are the things that bring the most clarity.
Oh.
So as an example, right? So, and I just assumed everyone thought these things and thought like that when they saw images like that. And it was my friend who hit me over the head and said, how do you think about these things? She's like, I don't think like that. And so I kept hearing those things. And so, listeners out there, if you're hearing people say something to you over and again, like, well, how did you come up with that? Or I don't think like that, whatever it is you're doing, we take it for granted. We sometimes just think, oh, everyone does that or sees the world like that. And so it was like these gradual little weird things, both insults and comments, that kind of got me on this path of figuring out, well, one thing led to another. And then I just kept seeing the world in different ways, and it started manifesting in different ways, whether it be the art, the photography, the writing. I've got several other books that I'm writing, and these different ways of seeing things. It just manifests. It just comes out if you let it. If you are, here's the biggest problem, and why a lot of these creative ideas don't come out into the world, is fear. And we the inner voice tells us that's stupid. Who do you think you are? And that's a dumb idea. And just don't be weird. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Oh
if
my
that
word.
answered the question, but
What kind of adversity have you faced that enabled you to harness your creativity?
yeah, so that's a good one. I had a pretty hard childhood growing up. I was my mom was faced some mental illness, and I was alone a lot. So I was just alone a lot, and I moved a lot, and I did not have an opportunity to make a lot of good friends and keep the good friends because I just kept moving. And it made for a lonely childhood, and isolated and even depressed. And so I think that's part of the reason I started finding this beauty and going out into nature and seeing the world in a different way because I kind of had no choice. I didn't have a lot of friends and distraction. So both that and writing music, it became my safe place. Like I remember hearing from my parents are like, you would just disappear and I wouldn't see you for days. Like I'd be in my room writing music and just leaning into just creative endeavors in general, you know? And that was my safe haven and
Mm,
refuge, you know?
mm,
And so when I felt lonely or sad and I didn't have family or friends around because, you know, all the moving around, that creativity was always my friend, was always there. I could always tap into it and I could always discover new ways to harness it. And I
mm,
don't think it was a conscious decision that I thought, hey, you know, I'm going to do this. It just comes out, right? You know,
mm,
and it
mm.
becomes these coping mechanisms and ways to survive and find something to appreciate in beauty around you, you know, in all these different forms, writing music, seeing things in a different way. And it's not just nature. Like I challenged my students in that class, like we found it in architecture, we found it in man-made objects, we found it in all kinds of different things. You know, it's just appreciating all the things.
I love it. Wow. You just took me back to my childhood. Um, hmm. I was one of three children, but I have two brothers. And um, my parents were very protective, so I didn't know anything about, being out of the house and doing whatever I wanted. I was either I was at school or I was at home or driving in my father's car. That's it. And when I was at home, I used to retreat to my bedroom a lot, just because I had two brothers, and we kind of we didn't have that synergy between the three of us when we were younger. The two of them were very close growing up, and I remember I used to read a lot and just used my for me, my creativity was tapping into my imagination and almost being transported through the pages that I read
Yeah.
into those worlds, right?
Yes.
So that was my solace. I just looking at the comments quickly. Catherine says, "Keep your weird to yourself." Not sure I have that ability.
Good. Good. Don't have that ability. More of us need to
Catherine
unlearn
was
it.
all about snarky rainbows.
Yes. Good for you,
She'll
Catherine.
tell you.
I like
Diane,
Catherine.
me too. You two should connect actually. Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Diane, Diane says, it's the talk from our inner own worst enemy. We
Mm.
need to empower our inner best friend to take charge of our inner thoughts. Be your own best friend. Beautiful.
Yes, for sure, Diane. And you know what? I think be your own kindergarten best friend. You know, when you
Oh,
look at kindergartens versus sixth graders, right? Sixth graders can get pretty harsh to each other,
yeah.
to themselves. Be your kindergarten best friend. And
Oh,
that's the case for all these things that we're talking and all these creative play things. Oh, I got some interesting facts. So
yes.
there was a study done by a professor in the State of University of New York. He's a creative. He's a professor of creativity. Interesting enough, it's one of the only
Hmm,
um, degrees of its kind.
really?
It's a growing field. So they polled these kindergartners, okay, and they had set up this battery of tests that kind of was able to capture creative problem solving and how creative you are, and it rated you, and you could find out where you tested on this. And so they, at the kindergarten level, kindergarten to first grade, these kids tested at, how many do you think percentage-wise came out at a genius level?
I'm pretty sure the majority of them, at least
You're
80 to
right on.
90%. Mm.
98% were genius. They came back at age 10. That
Mm.
percentage came to guesses?
Probably 70.
Close. It was like, I believe it was 65-ish. They pulled them again at age 15.
Mm.
It came down to
Mm-mm.
12%.
Gee
And
whiz.
then, yeah, it's really sad. And then at adulthood, the 25 to 30 range, 2% came in at the genius level. So listen, it's so very important when you see kids operating both in their, to Diane's point, nicety skills, just being kind and best friends. Um,
Mm.
Kindergartens are the best at this, and they are
Yes.
also the best at just coming up with wild ideas. I mean, when you see a kindergartner draw trees, they're not green a lot of times, and they're purple and they're crazy shapes, and there's no rules in their thing. That's why I don't teach kids art. They don't need to be taught. They got it. I learn from them.
Right? Wow.
But it's an interesting thing. But the good news, because that's a pretty sad statistic and it's like very depressing. So I'll leave you like with a good note is that creativity is a skill. It's an ability. And with any ability, we have like the ability to grow our muscles and build our
Yes.
muscles, right? And creativity is just like that. It's in all of us. That's the good
Yes.
news. It's not like none of us, not one person on this planet is void of creativity. It's in our DNA. We are not
Mm-hmm.
instinctual animals. This is what sets us apart, and even some animals have shown some creativity. Crows and octopus can solve problems and interesting things, but to the level that we've gone to space. I haven't seen an octopus fly to space, and there's
Right.
there's just a different level of creativity that humans possess. So the good
Mm.
news is that you can tap into that and you can grow that muscle and you can get as creative, get back to kindergarten level as you want. It's just these self-imposed constraints that we put upon ourselves that kill our creativity.
Yeah, you're so right. I just want to go back to the comments quickly. Diane said here, she said, safe place. We need to make safe places for self and others everywhere. Wow.
Absolutely.
Um, wow. Yes. Catherine says, if you're willing to see things differently, you'll see things differently.
Right on.
Beautiful. Diane says, always embrace your inner child every day and every way. Makes life so much more fun. Oh, yes.
Absolutely. It seems so simple, but why
Yes.
do we make it so hard? That's the thing. It's like some days it's just harder to do that some days, but it's
Yeah,
important.
absolutely. I think Catherine was telling us what her guess was for genius level in kindergarten, which was 704%.
I love it.
She's
Yeah.
from Alabama. I think Alabama's a little bit like Texas. Everything's bigger there, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Diane also says, always reinforcing respect and kindness. We can always work progress to be better tomorrow, even when we only take baby steps. Wow.
Absolutely. And baby steps are the most important. Listen, guys, don't think about
Mm,
the end of the marathon. Just one step at a time. And sometimes that's just getting out of bed. And then you know what? That's okay. Like think about your small achievements and don't have this huge, like enormous goal in mind. I mean, it's good to have the goal and set goals, but like remember, those baby steps are the most important part to reaching that goal. We don't give ourselves enough credit on those baby steps. We need to celebrate those.
Mm, you're so right. Wow. And Catherine says it's the little bits that make the biggest impact. So, and Diane says, enjoy the journey. Absolutely. Oh, my gosh.
Catherine, I made a song together with my daughters. It's called Little Bit. And it's such a sweet, sweet song. And it was all about the little bits of life that make it, so much better and worth living. You're a little bit of, gosh, why am I forgetting the words right now? It's been a while. She even helped me write a couple lyrics, but it's the little bit of joy that makes life so big. Ah, I should find that lyrics. I'm kind of like, you know, being put on the spot, so I forget. But it's a very sweet song, but it's all about that little bits that make the big bits.
Beautiful. I love it. Leanne, we are approaching the top of the hour.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, hmm, would you like to share a story with us that just shows a little bit about how you use creativity to overcome a challenge? And then also share with us where people can find you if they want to connect, please.
Oh, um, so we are approaching, like I'll just give you an example of something I'm facing right now. So going into schools with my with the Sunny the Firefly book, we are facing a little bit of a challenge that not all the schools have the budget or the funding to bring us in as an author and illustrator. The great thing about having us together is having us together. Like we've got the writer and the illustrator, and we both bring something different to this great experience because I wrote a song for the book too, so we get to go in and spend the whole day with them. We teach them a song, we teach them illustration processes, the writing process, and we teach them teamwork. And there's a lot of really fun lessons along the way. Just so many great things that we get to talk with the kids about, the deeper impacts and all that stuff. But all to say is that some of the schools don't have funding, and I'd love to go in and do all these things free, but we also have our family needs and everything too. So trying to make this interesting win-win, just come up with this strategy to find funding outside, like find people who have budgets and funding who want to um, bring these kind of creative experiences to schools and places. And it just kind of dawned on me. So our effort right now, it's a kind of a creative solve, right? That I hadn't thought of before until, and it's interesting how these ideas come at you because I have an opportunity potentially to be on some of our local news channel with talking about Sunny the Firefly. And sometimes we can't go into the schools we want to always. So by trying to find funding from other places that have the budget and have the funding, and they're just waiting for a good reason to spend that bucket, we're going to now focus our efforts into trying to find those funders that can help us um, have a broader reach for kids that we would love to reach and go and spend time with. So I think that maybe is
Mm,
an example where we're facing an adversity. We've
I love
got
it.
to figure out how to solve the problem. So
I love that. Wow. What a great way to figure that out because I would never have thought about that. Right?
well, it's interesting where these ideas come from because this news anchor asked me the question specifically is like, have you been into these
Mm,
certain schools? And I'm like, well, we haven't. And what's really stopping us? Because I'd love to go into those schools, like the public schools, and they just don't have the funding. Um, and they need it. They need it the most. And my heart aches and I want to be in these schools, but we just can't do all these things free. Plus the printing of the books cost money. It just takes money to do some of these things. But there's pockets of money. So when she asked that, so had she not asked that specific question for that specific place, I probably wouldn't have put my head in that spot. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
it's these obstacles, and you think about water, because we have a creek in our backyard and I love watching it. I'm not good at meditating, but I'm really good at watching the creek run. It's active meditation. And you always notice that the water doesn't stop flowing because there's a rock. It goes around it. And then it creates really interesting sounds, and it's very beautiful where the disturbances are, right? The obstacles are sometimes the best part of the creek, right? And we want to avoid the obstacles and the discomfort. And sometimes the discomfort, the disruption, is where the ideas come from. Because believe me, I've faced this challenge for the book is almost 2 years old, and I have not thought about that creative problem solve until someone asked me that direct question. So see how that happens is like someone sparks something, asks something just the right way, and it hits you just the right way. And you're like, huh, thanks for asking that
beautiful.
question.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Yeah, this is something that I can definitely think on as well. So thank you for sharing with us. What are your final thoughts, and where can people find you, please?
Oh yeah. So I'm doing a website overhaul right now. It's not a good place to reach me at the moment, but probably the best place is just Instagram. It's leannlander.art and or Sunny the Firefly. I do have the Sunny the Firefly website is available, so you can reach me there too. And that's just sunnythefirefly.com. And then Instagram leannlander.art. And final thoughts is just thank you so much. I really enjoy our time together, and I'm so thankful for that interesting network, Jonathan linking us
Yeah.
together with Hannah and Lynette and you. And thank
Oh,
you so much for letting me be on here. And thank you, Diane and Catherine and other participants who asked really good questions or had such good comments. You guys are rocking it. You definitely are embracing this whole mindset. So it's so important. Thank you so much.
it's my pleasure, honestly. Thank you for coming and sharing your essence with us. Definitely a lot to think about. Wow. I, huh, I want to see. Catherine says, it's the little bits that make the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
That and Diane is saying that we should enjoy the journey. Catherine is answering and she says, if you're not enjoying the journey, it's time to change rights,
Yeah.
right? Diane also says, we don't know what needs to be fixed until someone shows us. That's beautiful. That is
Yeah.
beautiful. Leanne, remind me again, what's the name of the movement that's on Instagram about finding the beauty around you?
Yeah. It's just hashtag find beauty where you are. Just all
Hashtag
written
fine.
one word.
Awesome. I think I need to jump on that.
It's so neat. Like people like what people find, and it's really interesting what they find.
Mm,
And it's nice because I can get in a rut. I find similar things, and then other people find something completely different, and it takes you a moment to like, wow,
mm,
what is it about that they found so interesting? So yeah, you should jump on there and just search that hashtag and see what people are posting. It's really fun.
definitely. Well, thank you, Leanne. Um, I'm going to send you to the green room while I wrap up here.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciated our time.
It's a pleasure. Me too. If you're still watching, thank you for spending this time with us. I want to encourage you and invite you to come on over to africup.co.za. Come and join us. I'm going to be playing some music, wrapping up this conversation about creativity and how you too can harness yours. Until next time, be blessed, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. If you're on I will be playing you Alicia Keys with Superwoman. Enjoy.